Hi students, welcome to Nurse as Scholar. This is Nurse 506. It's Nurse as Scholar Evidence-Based Practice. So as you can see, it runs from January 14th to March 6th, and it's fully online. If you have any questions, you have my information. Please email me or text me to set up a time to meet by Zoom. I'm happy to meet with you at any time that's available to both of us. You can read through the course description, but really we're building upon your previous knowledge of nursing research and evidence-based practice, that we can understand how we translate research into practice and how long it takes. So the course goal is to be able to critically appraise the nursing literature and apply evidence-based strategies to solve clinical issues based on the principles of nursing leadership. So you can see your course textbook, and then there's some journal readings and other information in Blackboard that we always have. You can read the course outcomes here. These are, you'll be able to apply these 5 outcomes at the end of the course, and then you can see how you'll be graded. So please read through all of that. Again, you want to make sure that if you don't submit things on time or talk to me about something, then there is a reduction of 10% in your total score for late assignments. That's on top of any other reductions you might have in grading. So you really want to make sure that you get things in on time, or just reach out to me. I'm happy to work with students. You just have to communicate. So here are the assignments. So you're going to have a discussion each week. They're worth 50 points per week. Your initial posts are due by Thursday, and your responses are due by Sunday. And then you have scholarly appraisals. There are going to be 2 of them. They are worth 75 points each. One is due in week 2, and one is due in week 4. You can see the dates there. We'll go over them further in detail. And then your research components. So you're going to be doing a mini abbreviated research project, and each of these components is going to build into this. So you're going to send it in, I'm going to give you feedback, you'll address it, and then you'll add it to your final research project at the end. So in week 3, you'll complete research component number 1, identifying the problem and the PICO question. In week 4, component number 2, the research design. In week 5, ethical considerations. And then in week 6, a literature review, which you can work on these ahead of time. They're just submit them earlier should you choose to, which actually might not be a bad idea on some of the things if you have questions about them. So we'll just keep in good, close contact as you go through. And again, no one is expected to understand this fully. That's why you submit them, and I help you kind of work through them, and then you put them into your cumulative final assignment, which will be all of your 4 components and some other components at the end of the syllabus. And then you'll have your scholarly reflection that you always have that talks about how you met the course outcomes. So that will give you a total of 1,000 points for the course, and will help you determine your grade as per this grading scale, which you can look through. Of course, your policies and procedures are in here. If you have any questions, you can read through this and ask any questions of me. I'd be happy to answer them for you. And there are a lot of policies and components. I do want to mention, if you are having difficulty with writing, or maybe some struggles with some component of writing, we do have our online writing center that will help you. And then we always do have a survey at the end so that you can rate the course evaluation, in the instruction, did the assignments help you? How did, etc. So those will be offered at the end, and then etc. So then we also have our university student learning outcomes and our program outcomes for our leadership. So again, you can read through all of those. So I'm going to jump right to the class schedule, so I'm not taking too long of this for you. So as you can see, each is set up by week, topic, and activities. I'm not sure how this got out of line. So we'll just fix that another time. So you can see that week 1 is a shortened week, January 14th to 18th. It's kind of the intro week. So you'll go through and read. You've already seen this maybe in the course intro video if you did. So your activities are listed here. They're also listed in the week. You can see that each week there is a component that applies to nursing research and evidence-based practice, and there's also a small component that's attributed to the feng shui. And again, the feng shui is not anything that you need to spend too much time on. It's just to give you something to balance the heavy load of the nursing research component that we're looking at. So Follow the activities. You're going to participate in the discussion, the complete scholarly appraisal number 1 in this week, and then we're going to move on to week 3 and unit 2. So just be mindful that your weeks and your units are a little off, so just pay attention to the dates and what unit we're actually in the course. So I will keep most of the units hidden until a week or so later. That way you don't have too many open in your way as you're looking through. So again, Unit 2, Action Research Design. This is when you're going to do your identifying your problem and PICO question. You'll send that in. I'll give the feedback to you quickly while you're working on your research design on the next week, and then you can start to incorporate some of those changes or ideas that I've given back to you into your paper. So you have a cumulative paper that you will have by the end, and you really shouldn't have too much to add to it. So again, as each week comes along, you can see all of the things that are due. Your discussion is always due by Thursday, and with your replies to peers by Sunday, and your main components and other assignments are due by Sundays, and which are again posted in the course. So you can read through the units, the rest of them. You can see also your major assignments. So your discussion board assignment is listed here for your initial post, and then your responses. If there is for some reason a post where you don't need to have a response completed, then I will be sure to note that in the particular week. But unless I say, you don't need to have a peer response or something, then you want to follow these directions. Then our discussion board grading rubric is here. These are the scholarly appraisals that you'll have 2 of them to do. You'll follow the Johns Hopkins evidence-based model, Appendix E, and then including all parts that when you follow the flow sheet, as you look at it, you'll see how the flow goes. So all appropriate parts, and then just thinking about as when you're looking at the evidence level and rating, you really want to think about the aims, the methodology, the design, etc. So you're thinking about that as you answer those questions. And then here is your grading rubric for your 2 scholarly appraisal assignments. And then finally you have your research components. You have 4 of them, as we already discussed: identifying the problem and PICO question, the research design, ethical considerations, and the literature review. Now the literature review does not have to be extensive. It should be, I'm going to go through this in a separate video, but you will have 3 literature review tables that will have 3 articles, and then you'll just do a summary, a couple of paragraphs of your literature review and what you found about your evidence-based practice PICO question. So it is not an extensive literature review that is like 5 or 6 pages long, unless of course you want to make it that long. So again, those assignments are going to provide that foundation for your abbreviated research project. And then you'll see again weeks 3 through 6 here, and then here is how you will be graded: your assignment expectations, background information, did you do a summary of the research problem, etc. So did you have background information to support your research problem, and did you have the PICO question stated in PICO format? So again, you'll just follow this, and then there'll be a grading rubric that we'll go over in just a moment below. You'll see research component number 2, the research design. You talked about the research problem with your background information, and then you added the research design and how they work together. And then your research design choice. Were you doing qualitative with interviews? Were you doing quantitative with a pre-test, post-test? So it doesn't have to be a very in-depth research design, but it should answer your question that you want to know the answer to. And then your professionalism, was it clear, etc. So ethical considerations, this one would probably be your quickest one that you can, once you find your PICO question and your research design, this should not take you very long to do ethical considerations, because you are going to be using the Belmont report and other, ethical considerations about, such as autonomy and, respect for, autonomy, justice, etc. So you're looking through and thinking about the ethics behind what you're doing. The literature review, again, you're going to summarize all of these parts are building. So you're building the research problem, the design, the ethical considerations, and background information, and then you're adding in, a couple of paragraphs of your literature review, and you want to discuss what the literature shows about your particular PICO question that you chose. Again, so you're basically just describing what you put into your literature review table. And then here are the research components grading rubric. You can see all of this here below and read through that. And then finally you'll have your cumulative final project, which again I will go over in a different video, but it's just an opportunity to explore a current problem in nursing and provide a potential solution. So, it's going to be an expansion of your 4 research components, and it can be focused on your Nurse 573 if you already took that, or if you're going to take it and you know what you would like to do for quality, safety, and value, or your integrative nursing capstone, or it could just be standalone. A lot of students just did a standalone project, which is perfectly fine. So you're going to use the 4 research components and then to create a final paper in proper APA format. And then this project should be about 5 to 10 pages. By the time you're finished, it will easily be 5 to 10 pages, because if you have 1 to 2 pages for the other 4 components, you're already going to have 6 to 8 pages done of this. So it won't be very much. You'll add a title page, abstract and references page, but you'll add in, the abstract. You'll add in, make sure that you have the background information. And then here, I put this in here because a lot of students forget this, but in APA formatting, we do not use background or introduction as a header. You actually, you'll see in the student sample paper that I use, what you should be doing for that. So don't put the words background or introduction in the beginning of your paper. Then you want to have, again, research design. You already did this part. You already did ethical considerations. You already did the research question. You can do a theoretical and conceptual framework if it applies, and then you'll have your literature review. So you're going to have a summary of the current literature, and you're going to have at least 3 articles, and then you're going to have a table format along with it. And then you just want to talk about the summary of what literature you found. And then, of course, your research was clear, organized, etc. So those are the components that you'll look at. And then this is how it will be graded here. And then your final course reflection, we always want to look at and reflect upon if we learned what we learned from the course. So course outcomes are listed below. You'll choose one of them. And the grading and points possible are very simple. Grammarly doesn't like it. Sorry for the red. You're going to share the course outcome that you're discussing. It's clearly identified, worth 5 points. So if you are saying, I want to discuss explaining the legal and ethical considerations for nursing research. That's, an outcome that I met in the course. You're going to state that's the one you're talking about. You're going to give a summary of the content that shows how you met it. You're going to have, it's going to be written in reflective voice, so it's a conversational manner. It doesn't have to be, any particular APA formatting unless you are using something that's not your own words. So it should be, a nicely written paper that has minimal spelling or grammar errors, but is conversational. So you can use I. I chose this course outcome because it was important to me, and I met it through these particular assignments, etc. So, how did you meet the course outcomes through the assignments, through class, through clinical experiences, or all of the above. And it only needs to be 1 or 2 pages, double spaced, and then you upload that. So 100 points total. So that is just a brief synopsis of the syllabus. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Don't forget to do your syllabus sign-off, and I'll see you in the next section.